Folks, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show, and we're rejoined by Karla Borromeo. Welcome back, my friend. Can you, let's just talk about this, your concept of leadership and how you put that leadership into your life.
I think leadership is something that we all have, and that is truly being your authentic self, which is what your show is about. And authenticity encompasses really taking the time to get to know yourself, self-awareness, and leadership is about being able to show up. And part of showing up is also learning how to fall forward and make mistakes.
Could you talk about, was leadership something that you learned, that was modeled for you, or did you have to learn it on your own?
So I was groomed. I was an Air Force brat, so that was my entire life. We grew up overseas, and then I was also in the Air Force Officer Reserves, and so definitely leadership was something that, in that context,
what did you observe at that time? I mean,
well, here's the thing that I still live by, which is the Air Force core values. And
you explain that to regular peeps out there?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
To you. And I'm still working on it. It's a continual thing.
Absolutely.
So it's integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And that, for me, encompasses what leadership is. And I think leadership doesn't have to be something big where you're leading a big company or a big organization. It's not even for other people. It's, again, really being able to maximize and harness your inner resources, your self-belief, knowing who you are through every moment as you evolve, and being in the moment and serving. Leadership is service. So.
Did you actively serve in the Air Force?
It was a reserve.
Right. And then, so I think the question there is also speaks to love. I mean, if you could talk about your concept of love and how you bring love to other people.
So love, my concept of love is to love more. Love more when you're uncomfortable. Love more when you are doubtful or fearful. Love when others may judge or may not understand you. Love your shadows and embrace that. That's the way to really embrace all of who you are. We are all comprised of light and shadows. We're human. And to fully encompass not only the light, because I'm totally positivity and I'm an optimist, but what I learned is that we're the full spectrum, and it goes hand in hand. And to love means to love more, even when people may hurt you unconsciously. And that is to love yourself through that process, as well as be conscious and aware of where those people are and their level of pain. I mean, if they're inflicting that much pain upon you, they must be inflicting so much more pain upon themselves. So in that capacity, I have a lot of compassion for them. And at the same time, you love yourself to love them unconditionally from afar and create a safe space for yourself. So
it's deep. No, I mean, can you talk about a time when you brought love to the world?
Always.
Absolutely. We've already seen that on full demonstration tonight. You know? But I mean, was there a standout moment for you when you realized how big your heart was?
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, wow.
Because everyone's born no one's born to hate, you know.
It's true.
You know?
It's true.
So I mean, like at an early age you discovered that it was service, but it was also love.
Oh, absolutely. That's what love is. I mean, service is an expression of love. Like, you know the 5 love languages?
Sure.
Yeah, so there's acts of service is one of them. I think how I best show up in sharing love is being fully present. Being fully present with the people that I'm with in that moment, because that's where the wisdom comes through, and every moment's different. But as far as examples of how big, your capacity to love, it's when, say traumatic events can happen. And I think we're all human, and we've all experienced our fair share of pain and trauma and different capacities. And for me, it was always about looking at it in a way of looking at it in a broader perspective, where it was just not about me. Where you can be thankful for your own learning, the self-mastery, the lessons, and also be grateful for them.
Karla, I mean, can you talk a little bit about, I think it's important in this time in your life when you overcame adversity and how it made you stronger, and where it's put you today on the precipice of where you're at today, but ultimately the buoyancy that and the resiliency of overcoming the adversity. Is there an example that you can share?
Like, we're all going through adversity every day, but yes, I can give you a fair share.
Something that might be considered fatal to some other peeps, that may knock them down. You got knocked down, but you just dusted yourself off.
Wow, there's been many of those. There's been many of those. I'll just speak in a generality. Abusive relationships, emotionally, physically, mentally abusive relationships. And quite frankly, I stayed in those relationships way too long.
Could you talk about the aspects that are most damaging to somebody's psyche?
Absolutely. So that's called codependency. And that really breaks a person's confidence so there's love, and I can feel and have so much compassion and understanding of why this person's suffering, but that still does not give them any right to inflict pain and abuse upon you. Even if I know that that person was rejected when they were 5 years old and they have abandonment issues, but that still gives them no reason to hit you or yell at you so you can have understanding and awareness of where they're at in their personal development, and also be aware of what your needs are. And ultimately, when you come in a codependent relationship as a rescuer, ultimately, you weaken your own self-confidence and your own mental psyche, and you start believing the lies that they're telling you. And so it's really absolutely critical when we think about love. And for me, I'm such a giver. Giving for me is my highest joy. You feel it in the moment, and that's my nature. And so when you're giving, but you also got to remember that you got to give to yourself and take care of yourself as much as you love to take care of others. So
how do you break away from that relationship ultimately? What are the things that you would tell people out there who might be mired in these codependent relationships?
Oh, wow.
How do you break off ultimately?
Firstly, see a professional. Secondly, when you see that professional, you're going to see that those relationships are really a projection and reflection of probably some contracts that you made at a younger age that had influenced, or your negative self-talk. And so they're reflecting outwardly how you're talking to yourself. So when you're working with a professional, they can help you find the root of that, and then you can say and stand up within yourself and say, no. And ultimately, if it's a physically abusive relationship, definitely goodbye cold turkey. So,
you tell me about what inspires you. Do you find inspiration daily? Do you look for inspiration? I mean, what inspires you?
Wow. Humanity inspires me. You know, there's so much vulnerability in being human and in connecting with one another when we're so uniquely different, and there are more than 7 billion different stories and perspectives and histories that people are experiencing on a moment-to-moment basis. And to be able to have that much diversity and uniqueness, and at the same time being connected at the heart, that's my joy and that's my inspiration, is really connecting humanity within humanity. And I think if we are connected through our heart, through kindness, we cultivate a culture of kindness, and with kindness there's a basic foundation of respect, and celebrating our uniqueness. That is, I think, where miracles are born. That's what inspires me.
You just talk about coming from we enter the 21st century now, very multi-ethnic in this country. You come from a mixed background. Can you talk a little bit about the blessings of coming from multi-ethnic background?
Well, I'm Filipina, and just the history.
But you have some Italian blood in you.
Like 2%, maybe 1%. Maybe it's watered down.
So you're not. So you're not really. So continue though. Yeah.
So the Philippine history, there's Spanish, there's the Americans, we're of Malaysian ethnic stock. I mean, we're in essence we're Mutts, and I think there's some Chinese there too. So I in particular didn't grow up in the Philippines. I was born there. I grew up in Japan and Italy and moved around a lot, and I think that's where I was really graced with being able to celebrate the uniqueness of cultures and to embrace all people. And so I'm not very localized. I'm proud to be XYZ, or I'm proud to be whoever, which country or nationality. Again, if I had a culture, it'd be kindness. And it would be an openness to celebrating all people, and that's just the way that I've experienced the world, is traveling and living fully immersed with different people. So,
where do you feel your greatest impact has been as it relates to, traveling is one thing, but then being a humanitarian, providing service, where did you have a great impact? Can you give a tangible example?
Well, particularly I had a really big passion with youth, and there's been many years where I was involved in leadership roles in various nonprofits. Even when I went to UCLA, we counseled marginalized communities, people who didn't have access to resources. And then, working with the Governor's Council, we helped Californians and youth get physically active and fit.
Why don't you talk about how you even connected with the governors? How did that even transpire?
It was a nonprofit. And that was under the Schwarzenegger administration, but that was it was nonpartisan. It was
sure.
None of that. He was our honorable chairman. It was through our chairman, Jake Steinfeld. He was a fit guy. and our executive director, Kenny Rogers. I was actually alongside doing nonprofits and all that. I'm also very, very active. So I was a personal trainer and boxing and martial arts, and so that was actually perfect meld of being so like a warrior, and then at the same time being of service to youth. Yeah.
How did the kids come back to you and let you know how much it meant to them, or the parents? I mean, how did you?
Oh, absolutely. Well, for this particular organization or all the other organizations?
Just the idea on the Governor's Council.
Oh, well, yes, it was highly successful. We were able to literally move more than 1.3 million kids in California, and that was more than the President's Challenge and all the governor's challenges of all the states combined. But how we did that was magical, because it wasn't us, and we were a 3-person team. It was through the civic leaders, it was through the teachers, it was through volunteers, it was through the superintendents, it was through the mayors, it was through companies. Literally everyone came together to support this singular mission to get people physically active and fit.
Is that magic or is that humanity?
I think that's synonymous. Magic is humanity. Yes, and yes.
Tell me one thing before I let you go, Karla. One area of your life that you are looking to grow the most in.
Receiving. Receiving. You know, I'm such a cheerleader. I'm so passionate. I'm inspired. I'm motivated. And I love taking a lot of things on. And sometimes I've had to learn this the very hard way, which is humility. To fall and to make mistakes, to need help, to ask for help. It's been a really critical lesson, and I'm still working on that. But the good news is, I'm so much better at loving myself through falling forward, because that's ultimately what success is trial and error. So anyway, all of the above what I just said.
Well, Karla Borromeo, we had a interesting start, but this take 2 was just stellar, and I appreciate you spilling your guts to the peeps out there, and I hope that someone, even just one cat, looking